Was Otonashi the programmer in Angel Beats? The programmer was an unknown person who was a human like Otonashi who forgot his memory, and due to that, entered the afterlife, even though he was never supposed to. The story goes that the programmer fell in love with a girl who passed on due to no longer having regrets left. Not willing to accept that, he waited for her to return, even though it would mean that she would have to die as a teenager with heavy regret. Imagine my man sitting around in a room like, man, I sure hope she gets reincarnated into the worst life possible so she can come back to me. And clearly, that didn't happen. So my man just sat around for years. And of course he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So he came up with the most perfect plan in the world. Why don't I just turn myself into an NPC? I'm sorry, is he stupid? How would he turn himself back to normal if she ever did arrive there? He still exists in the afterlife, but as an NPC, and nobody knows what he looks like or what his name is. Which only leaves us with one question. What color is this dress? I'm gonna list off why I think that Otonashi is the programmer. And I will note that this is just a theory, and I actually hope that this isn't the case, because I like happy endings. I'll also be adding counter arguments to this theory. First, isn't it odd that the programmer arrived in the same way that Otonashi did, and was not supposed to be there? Also, the way that Otonashi died wouldn't have resulted in amnesia. Some individuals do say that it's strange that he was wearing the NPC uniform, but it's stated that all individuals who arrive in the afterlife wear that outfit, so that argument is out. We also know that it's possible to exit the NPC state of mind. We've seen a few characters do so, but isn't it odd how none of them had memory loss? So why would Otonashi have memory loss? Well, as I explained earlier, he lost his marbles. So it's not unreasonable to say that he could have lost his memory by being an NPC for so long. Imagine living another life for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years inside of the NPC world. It's not a stretch to say that he could have forgotten the time prior, but the theory I prefer is that when he became an NPC, he hit the old factory reset button like this guy. I mean, that makes sense to me. Both don't have memory of certain events. Convenient, right? But more on that later. First off, most would say that the time frame of this anime doesn't line up, which is why I have two theories. The first one is that Otonashi arrived before Angel and lived as the programmer. How else could Otonashi arrive after Angel, despite the fact that Otonashi died first? I think that the original girl he was in love with was his sister. Not incest, I mean the brotherly love. He waited for her for so long that eventually the story went as it did, and he was able to pass on eventually because of Angel. And maybe the extra epilogue episode took place before the actual anime. My second theory is a little more far-fetched. What if I told you that this whole anime was one big loop? We know that in the story, Otonashi fell in love with Angel and wanted to stay and help people, but was left by Angel. This is oddly an extremely similar situation that happened to the programmer. So could Angel be the girl from the story? No, that's not possible, because that's in the distant past. But what if it is, like I said earlier, just a loop? That would mean that the storyline that we saw was not the first time in the loop. What if this happened before the beginning of the anime? And that all of these events led to this happening, a paradox of sorts. But we also know that for a fact that Otonashi reincarnates and meets Angel in the real world, right? Wrong. What if I told you that this whole scene was just the AI world? Remember when Yuri was put into the AI world? She was put into a really nice world. What if this was just his AI world, and maybe this memory was the one that took him out of the AI state? This would add so much more to the special Angel Beats episode, Another Epilogue, where it was said that he was waiting for someone. What if it wasn't a successor, but Angel herself? This means that this event happened shortly after the ending of Angel Beats, causing this whole anime to become a cycle. Because if you think about it, how did Angel and Otonashi both know the song that she was humming in the end? Because when you're reincarnated, you don't keep your memories. So the only explanation is that this didn't actually happen. But I know what you're thinking. In the end credit scene, it shows him disappearing with the rest of them. Yeah, well, my counter argument for this is pretty weak. Maybe eventually he does break the cycle and tells this guy, nah, I'm moving on before you. Bam, cycle ends. Or maybe it's showing that this version of the character is disappearing because he is resetting to a previous point. Now let's talk about the counter arguments. For one, my man is no coder. He's more of the doctor type. So how could he have learned to do all this advanced programming? I mean, these people are making guns out of dirt, so saying this isn't possible isn't a crazy idea. Also, remember when I said that the whole anime is just a loop? Well, all he has to do is grab this handy book off the shelf and learn English. Not like he doesn't have all the time in the world. Also, maybe he learns to code in the years after Angel left him. And the reason he doesn't know all this is because when he turns into an AI, he always factory resets himself to this exact point, the moment when he entered this world. This is some Twilight Zone stuff. But why would the AI tell Yuri that she doesn't know the programmer? Probably because she doesn't. Because Otonashi would not become the programmer for several years. Plus, this AI isn't exactly what I would call a trustworthy source. This theory is pretty dark, but maybe Yuri was right. God is just cruel, forcing this man to relive the same life over and over again. Maybe I'll go a step farther and say that this is his perfect world, where he can finally help people like he always wanted to, and he created it for that purpose. But again, it's just a theory. I'm gonna sleep well tonight telling myself I'm wrong and that they lived happily ever after. Hello, Outro Lunar here. Click here if you want to see my channel. Click over here if you want to see my most recent video. Click over here if you want to see the recommended video. Alright, bye.